Well, good day and welcome to the in-depth highlights of the 14th running of the Virtual Endurance Championship, 24 Hours of Lemans, brought to you by the Sim Racing Club. In a moment we'll flash on the screen the qualifying results, and you can see the fastest man on track was Francesc Matalana in the Aston, closely followed by Thibaut Malbrun in the Ferrari, Miro in another Aston, and you can look at the rest of those at your leisure. It's a track that needs little introduction but potentially a little explanation. Any 24-hour race has its challenges and dramas, and this Division 3 event absolutely had it all. Dry weather to begin with, then a wet period, drying out again, then wet again, all based on a real-world live weather plug-in at the actual track of Circuit de la Sarthe in downtown Le Mans. We've attempted here to compress the critical action and the stronger storylines of the GTE event down from 24 hours down to just 1 hour. But we'll just show you briefly. Someone's just put on my desk here a copy of the local edition of L'Equipe. They're running a special Le Mans press, and we'll see 3 or 4 or 5 of these throughout the highlights with the local views of what's going on. We hope and think you might be entertained and informed, and hopefully come away with an understanding of what it takes to win here, and that there is more than one way to win and what pitfalls are indeed to be avoided. The simulation is the incomparable R Factor 2. Nothing beats it for physics fidelity. And lastly, if I can introduce myself, I'm David O'Brundle, and I'll be calling the action and giving the analysis for you today. So you've had a peek at all the other runners in the GTE field. We'll just let you have a glimpse on camera of the 7th place car in qualifying. That's the Aston Martin 362 of Rookie Monsters, piloted in the opening stint by Ollie Newman. And this is the 7th place qualifier, the Porsche 911 RSR, piloted by Xavier Eugeni. Now, as the LMP2 cars navigate the exit of the Ford chicanes and begin their race laps, the GTE field approaches the final Ford chicane complex, led by Jose Alvarez. And we just skip quickly across to L'Equipe again, who are telling us that qualifying doesn't mean everything, even if the English think so. It's a long race, etc., etc. Yeah, we know that, guys. So the GTE field, led by Alvarez, followed by Thibaut Malbrun, and then by Edouard Miro, head up towards the Dunlop chicane complex. The race is on. Each driver releases the pit limiter as they cross the start-finish line, so they are now at race pace, very impressively moving forward to open their account with their first lap here at the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans. The race will evolve into a bit of a strategic game, which we will discuss, but for the moment, these opening laps, it is just about pure racing, and Jose Alvarez leads the field around Tetra Rouge for their first passage down the Hunundiez Straight, sometimes incorrectly called the Mulsanne Straight. Mulsanne is the tight right at the end of this long section, followed by Malbrun, very closely followed by Malbrun in the Ferrari, and I think we can see an attack there from the TX3 car. First passage down the Hunundiez Straight, and it is on. German Lind under a strong attack by Sagnes in the virtual drivers by TX3 Aston Martin, and it looks like he's got a move on here on the Corvette. Lind will surely want to preserve his car and not bend any panels this early in the race. So P1, Jose Alvarez. P2, Thibaut Malbrun in the Ferrari. But that's all about to change. The slipstream very, very strong here on this main straight, and Malbrun has launched an attack on Alvarez in the Aston Martin, and it looks like it's successful into the Premier Relentissement. But it's not over yet, because Alvarez will have the benefit of the slipstream as they head up to the 12e Relentissement, and all but pulls it off. Malbrun having to be quite bold and quite assertive around the outside to prevent Alvarez from retaking first place. So Alvarez now has another long run down into the braking zone for Mulsanne corner, perhaps launch another attack on the Ferrari. Ferrari obviously breaking a hole in the air, and the Aston Martin able to just follow in that lovely hole that's been punched in the air, positions his car beautifully down the inside of Mulsanne. Be a high risk manoeuvre for Malbrun to try to hold position there. But potentially he can tuck up behind Alvarez in the really long run up to the braking zone for Indy, and indeed that's what he does. Big overspeed due to the benefit of slipstream as Malbrun approaches and then pulls alongside Alvarez's Aston Martin. Malbrun ideally placed to command the apex here. It would be a brave / foolhardy move to try to race him around here on the outside. There's only one line through here, very quick corner, and Malbrun closes it out. He's got to get the left-hand turn through Indy and manages to do that, and for the second time Thibaut Malbrun takes the lead of this race. We'll show you an external view because it is a beautiful overtake, and because of the speed here, line is everything. You just cannot compromise and not use all the track here, and Malbrun does the job beautifully. Slight lock up there you might have seen from Alvarez. Now this is only one lap later on the exit of Mulsanne corner again, and Malbrun in the Ferrari is absolutely legging it. He has pulled a significant gap and clearly giving it full beans, full attack, because to drop the pole sitter Matalano, he's lost it, unbelievable, incredible, and taken a heavy toll on his tyres, no doubt. Lucky enough didn't hit the barrier, but the virtual drivers by TX3 car is through as well, and Malbrun rejoins in third place. So that distinctively liveried green and black Aston Martin of virtual drivers by TX3 has climbed from 5th in qualifying to 2nd in the race. Now we are now here at the end of lap 3, and several drivers have been given drive-through penalties from a previous round. That's the way it works here with the Virtual Endurance Championship. If you misbehave in a prior round, you will serve your drive-through at the next round. In fact, one of the cars has 3 drive-throughs. So with those drive-throughs having happened, we now have Alvarez back in the lead, followed by Sagnes, also in an Aston Martin. Third then is German Lind in the Corvette, and temporarily in 4th place is Ollie Newman, Aston Martin employee, in the Rookie Monsters number 362 Aston Martin. You're about to see next lap around is Carlos de Lallamos in the number 390, the Racer Factor Aston Martin, serving the second of 3 drive-throughs properly on the naughty step. This is end of lap 6, and Thibaut Malbrun in the Ferrari, still flying but recovering from a drive-through, now attacks the Aston Martin of Ollie Newman, who wisely decides that this is not his battle and this is not his race plan. So the virtual drivers by TX3 car off camera has overtaken the R Factor 2 setups car. So that is the lead 2, followed by German Lind in the Corvette, doing very, very well. Rest of the running order, Malbrun already up to 4th place despite a spin and a drive-through. Ollie Newman in the Aston Martin, Miro in an Aston Martin, and then Eugenie in the Porsche. Lap 8, and a little bit like Malbrun a lap or 2 ago, Eduardo Miro has the pace now, recovering from his drive-through to also attack the Aston Martin of Ollie Newman, who is running on medium tyres and potentially a little bit steady, and makes us think he might be trying to run a little bit long on fuel here this afternoon. And here is the telemetry to back that up. The team have said to Ollie, don't fight him, just use him to save some fuel, and we can see here that Ollie is literally lifting off the throttle to maintain position and using Miro to do a little bit of fuel saving. Lap 7, and this is for the lead of the race. Alvarez has shown he's got the pace to run with Benjamin Sagnes, 2 of them in Aston Martins. Makes a beautiful move down the outside into the braking zone for Indy, gets it pulled up, and once again takes back 1st place, which of course is their deserved position, because these guys, if you recall, were the pole sitters for today's race. Now this is only 1 lap later, and this is again Benjamin Sagnes in the battle with Alvarez, and as he attacks him down into Mulsanne corner, The big difference is, we'll show you on an external shot in just one moment's time, the rain has come. The heavens have opened, it has started to rain, the wipers are on, and the cars are trying to manage their ambitions, managing their race position, fight for the lead in the rain, and no doubt still on slick, dry tyres. So Sagnes puts it on the inside in the run up towards Indy. Alvarez in the blue car lifts out of it. Definitely doesn't want to do anything too ambitious on a track that's becoming wetter and wetter by the second. So Sagnes is through. Once again, the lead change. End of that very same lap, and we see pitting for wets at lap 8 is Alvarez, Lind, Malbrun, Eugenie, Dell'Alamo, whereas the Sagnes, Newman and Miro stay out for an extra lap just to monitor the situation, because you never know if it's just going to be a short, sharp downpour and the track is going to dry out. So several of the drivers staying out to just monitor the situation and try to keep their options open. The risk they're going to take, of course, is that this extra lap gets worse and worse, and the guys who jump onto the wet tyres earlier end up with a significant advantage. But it is staying wet in the real world Le Mans, so it is staying wet here in this simulation, and we now see Alvarez, having done that extra lap, how much trouble he's having entering the pit lane. Now, of course, the wettest place on the whole circuit is the pit lane, because it's the one that gets almost no traffic. But there are no questions now about the level of wetness, the surface wetness, the intensity of the rainfall, and the remaining drivers. Here's Miro exiting the Porsche curves, struggling to keep it on track. So the remaining drivers will now all enter the pit lane. That's Sagnes, Ollie Newman and Miro will all enter now and take on wet tyres. What now remains to be seen is whether or not Sagnes's extra lap, whether his in lap is going to be quicker than Alvarez's out lap on the wet tyres. There's Ollie Newman entering pit lane now, and we'll see now this interesting little tactical gamble that these three teams took. Sagnes has now got the wet tyres on. He's leaving pit lane. That would have been a quick splash and dash of fuel as well. No point putting on rubber and not putting in fuel. Sagnes rejoins the race circuit. No drying line to speak of. And where is Alvarez in the blue R-Factor 2 setups car, the 372 car? There is Alvarez behind him. Alvarez is behind him. Sagnes has managed to pull off a mini overcut by staying out there on slicks, and that is impressive. Lind in third, Malbrun in fourth. Miro in the distinctive yellow Aston Martin exits in fifth place, and we will now see Oliver Newman, Aston Martin employee, Aston Martin Formula One team employee, by the way, in Aston Martin in sixth. Eugenie rounding the circuit now. He was one of the earlier ones to pit for wets. And the last car there is Dell'Alamo, and that is courtesy not of lack of pace, that is courtesy of serving 3 drive-throughs. Going to show you Thibaut Malbrun's pit entry from an on-board perspective, and that needs a little explanation. Little on board from the Corvette of German Lind in third place, just to give you an idea of the level of track wetness that these guys are dealing with. So it's Sagnes, Alvarez, Lind on a pretty wet Hunundier straight. Aston Martin, Corvette at the Premier Relentissement, mid-corner and exit. Alvarez has a serious moment, manages to gather it back in, very, very well done, great skills, but loses significant momentum, and German Lind does not need to be invited twice. So the lead 4 cars are grouped very, very tightly together, but the order has been chopping and changing significantly, and we now see we have Sagnes, Lind in the Corvette, Alvarez in the Aston Martin. Alvarez, who's not been out of the first 2 for the first hour, now finds himself in third place, and Malbrun in the Ferrari. And so here we are with an update after 1 hour of racing. We've got Benjamin Sagnes in the 297 Aston Martin, absolutely lighting it up. He was 5th on the grid, I'll ask you to recall, and running a 4:12 in the wet. Behind him, Dennis Lind in the Corvette C8, also running 4 minutes and 12 seconds. He was fourth on the grid. They've been on their wet tyres now for about 4 or 5 laps, and the rain has stopped, and if anything, the track is starting to offer up a bit more grip. Alvarez in the 372 Aston Martin is lapping at 4 minutes 13.6. In fourth place, we have Malbrun in the Ferrari, running at 4 minutes 13. Miro in the Aston Martin, also on 4 minutes 13. You can see the gaps visually as I flick from car to car. Ollie Newman just coming into the final complex, and he's lapping at about a 4 minutes 17. In seventh place, Eugenie in the Porsche. Not the easiest car to extract consistent lap times out of, and particularly in the wet, lapping at a 4:19. And Del Alamo, after his triple drive-through exploits, is now chasing and managing to do a pretty quick 4 minutes 14. So that's the update at the 1 hour mark. We'll come back to you when the pit stop cycles begin. Lap 18, and this is Alvarez in the Aston Martin in third place, setting up a big move on German Lind. Sorry, German, I called you Dennis Lind earlier out of habit. Setting up a big move on German Lind in the Corvette. It's very wet. You can see there's no drying line here at all, and the drivers are literally dancing on the limit, just trying to grab that slightly later apex, get that slightly faster exit speed without throwing it all into the Armco. And Alvarez is really looking quite ambitious and looking really like he's delicately balancing the car on the absolute limit here. He jumps now into the dirty air behind German Lind in the Corvette, who's no doubt keen to hang on to second place, but by this time here, you can look across at that 387 car, look across at that number 2 and know that, yes, it clicks back to number 3. For the moment at least, Alvarez has taken that position. How hard is German Lind going to fight to hold him off? And he decides discretion is the better part of valour. There is so much to lose at the moment with an unwise defence. And Alvarez marches up into second place again, showing that he has the skills to pay the bills. This is the same lap, but earlier in the lap, but at the same time. Del Alamo now making a move into the Dunlop complex on Eugenie in the Porsche, and the Porsche just gets away from Eugenie, and Del Alamo is through and now into seventh place. We'll look at it from an onboard. He's trying to set this up, and that inertia of that rearward slung flat six has just unfortunately carried Eugenie off. Frightening moment there in the Porsche curves for, I think that's Alvarez with an LMP2 that had a bit of a problem. It's 13 laps since the drivers pitted for the wet tyres, and Sagnes is showing he's got a capacity to manage fuel as much as he has pace, and he goes around again. But behind him we can see here that Alvarez has in fact pitted. So Alvarez down into the pit lane, and that will be for fuel. He won't need to change tyres because it's still wet. German Lind now through into second place, virtue of that Alvarez pit stop. Malbrun in the Ferrari doesn't stop either. Miro coming around, and Miro looks like he's going to go around again for another lap. And Oliver Newman will also go around for another lap in the Rookie Monsters Aston Martin. Eugenie caught out again slightly by the inertia of that low slung, slightly rear slung Porsche engine. These are the days that make us stronger. Sagnes pulls into the pit lane. This is 14 laps since he took on his wet tyres. German Lind also pulls into the pits. I think he's on the same lap. No, he's gone a lap longer. Malbrun in the Ferrari pulled into the pits. Car in front of him just did enough to activate, in fact, the yellow flashing lights. Miro also pitting, but Oliver Newman goes around, and this is where it gets slightly interesting. Newman's gone a lap longer on fuel, and this is going to allow him to get a bit more data on tyres. Now, Rookie Monsters engineers decide that the data leads to medium tyres, and Demetrius Pappas takes the car, Greek driver, taking over from Ollie Newman in the number 362 Rookie Monsters Aston Martin, but the drying line is narrow. And as Miro can see here, Miro is still on wets. It just goes to show that it is not easy on either tyre. But Miro, this is contemporaneous to Pappas leaving the pits. Miro was 32 seconds ahead. Big spin, little tap of the barrier. Hopefully not too much damage for him. So it's the 1 hour 50 mark, and we're just going to run you through the running order. Sagnas in the lead, followed by Alvarez in second. German Lind in third in the Corvette. Fourth will be Malbrun in the Ferrari, and you can see that drying line there. Very significant, but very narrow. Malbrun is followed by Miro, who has just earlier had his little spin in contact. And they're followed by Demetrius Pappas in the Rookie Monsters Aston Martin. And now we've got Miro, Malbrun, by the way, just showing how hazardous it is when you start putting the car through the Porsche curves. Bit of a lose there from Malbrun in the Ferrari. We're now on board with another car here, just showing how treacherous it is, how much the momentum of the car wants to take advantage of that lack of grip and just head off in its own direction. And it is just as treacherous, if not more treacherous, for the LMP2 cars. And we've got Alvarez here following Lind closely, managing his car around Indianapolis when an LMP in front of him has a big spin, big moment. And we're now back looking at Miro. It is lap 32, and Miro has definitely stayed on the wets. We talked earlier about that tactical decision. Miro has stayed on the wets because he is now trying to cool those wet tyres. Two cars behind him on track, but only one car behind him on position is Demetrius Pappas, being allowed through there to lap the 390 car. Pappas is on the mediums, and you can see that drying line is getting wider now, and the medium tyre is getting more and more favourable in the condition. It's 2.5 laps later here, and Demetrius Pappas on the medium shod Aston Martin makes a bit of a move, but it's probably more just to fill the mirrors of Edouard Miro. There is no way in the world that Pappas is going to want to get off the drying line in the braking zone, but he's definitely showing Edouard Miro that he's there, and he's going to start to take advantage of a bit of slipstream, slightly better performing tyres in the moment. And the Rookie Monsters car, certainly at this juncture in the race, has the pace advantage over the Roth Racing 375 Aston Martin of Miro. And that is the Rookie Monsters' first pass for position in the event. Meanwhile, Alvarez pits from second place and hands over to Matalana. Full service, that's tyres and fuel. You can tell by the 75 seconds on the screen. In the meantime, Sagnas pits 1 lap later and hands over to Maxime Berggraf. Awkward exit there due to the LMP car. By the way, you can tell from the windscreen wipers it is raining again. It is wet again at Le Mans, and the drivers will be taking wet tyres. Lucky timing. This is Thibaut Malbrun, and the flying Malbrun has had to serve a little bit longer pit stop. You can see the 10 there on his window. What happens is the digits will read to 99, and then once it gets to 99, every digit is 10 seconds. Contrast that with 69 seconds for Demetrius Pappas. The Rookie Monsters car is definitely trying to fuel safe. It's lap 38, and along with that 100-second pit stop, which must have had something to do with some light damage repairs, the Ferrari has also had a driver change, and the new driver is Ludovic Darquet. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And Ludovic is just having to very, very quickly come to grips with what's happening on the track. Now we have Miro coming back to avenge the earlier overtake when they had a big tyre offset. One of them wasn't really on the ideal tyres. We're now back on equal terms. Miro is on fresh wets. Demetrius Pappas is on fresh wets. And Miro is there to say, hey buddy, hope you didn't get too carried away before. That was for P5, by the way. A little bit later in the lap, Demetrius Pappas lifts off the throttle to allow the race R-Factor car through. It's 2 laps down, and we may as well play nice. Lap 44, and German Lin pits in the Corvette and hands over to Rivera. 2 laps into Rivera's Le Mans experience, Francesc Matalana, the pole sitter from qualifying, is attacking with a vengeance into the final Ford complex and pulls off what I think was the overtake of the event. That was just absolutely sensational. Look at that body language of that car. Look at that car move around. Matalana has got this car by the scruff of the neck. That is worth an onboard. Here's Matalana. Remember, he's off any kind of drying line that might exist. Manages to gather it in, keep it legal, correcting oversteer, correcting throttle steer, gets it around the final part of the Ford chicane, and job done. Berggraf is now in the lead Aston, the 297 car, and you can just see how hard he is pushing through the S's there. On board with Matalana now, just for another little moment to show you just why you can never get complacent, never start relying on muscle memory to do a lap here in the wet at Le Mans. Another on board, approaching the tight right of Arnage, just to show you again what can happen. We've got an LMP. The LMP struggle here because there's a lack of aero, there's a lack of mechanical grip due to the wet. They are not happy here. Lap 52, Demetrius Pappas treats the deuxième relatissement a bit like a subject in a high school exam and decides he's not got to attempt that one. Later in that lap, you can see the sun is now out, and this is Berggraf in the 297 TX3 virtual driver's car, being allowed very politely there by Demetrius Pappas to pass, but in fact passes and then immediately heads to pit lane. Miro also heads to pit lane, followed by the number 390 Aston Martin of Race Factor. Demetrius Pappas arrives in pit lane for a full service and driver change, but there is a major catastrophe. The driver cannot get onto the server. He has to come around again on the very next lap. They are successful in getting the driver change. David O'Reilly takes the car, 21 seconds stationary just for the driver swap, heads out on wets. Just in case that process wasn't stressful enough, O'Reilly's first turn of the wheel, and there is an accidental contact with the Corvette. Bit of a shock, no doubt, for both parties, but no ill intentions and apparently no harm done. Just tricky one to call. Corvette slowing from a higher speed for the corner, moving onto the racing line, and of course the Aston Martin accelerating from a lower speed, exiting pit lane. Both cars appear to be undamaged, and hopefully neither driver's race is compromised. Running order at lap 56, approximately 4 hours in the lead, virtual drivers by TX3. Coming second is the Corvette of GMI. Third is R Factor 2 Setups, Matalana at the wheel. Fourth is the Ferrari of One Move Esports. Fifth is the Aston Martin of Miro, Roth Motorsports. Sixth is the Aston Martin of Rookie Monsters. Seventh is the Porsche. And eighth is the 390 car, the Race R Factor car. Rivera pits in the Corvette, and you can see him there stationary. Matalana takes over second place for now. Matalana now laps O'Reilly in the Rookie Monsters car. But on the Hunandier Straight, approaching the first chicane, or the Premier Relatissement, Matalana has a massive moment, and in fact minor contact with an LMP who seems to have kind of lost it before hitting him anyway. That is damaging. 3 laps later, lap 66, Matalana has pitted. It's a 34-second pit stop, so it's fuel only. He's clearly double stinting the wets. The Roth car likewise, just a fuel fill, 34 seconds stationary in pit lane, also double stinting wets. But it's 2 laps later before the Rookie Monsters car stops, and also just for fuel. Very thin drying line starting to appear. 5-hour update, leading the race, Bovo in the virtual drivers by TX3 Aston Martin, followed then by the Corvette. Third place, Matalana in the R Factor 2 Setups car. Fourth place, Malbrun in the Ferrari. Fifth place, Miro in the yellow Aston. Sixth place, O'Reilly in the Rookie Monsters Aston Martin. 7th, the Porsche 911 RSR of AXRT Motorsport, and then in 8th place, the 390 car of Racer Factor. The Roff Racing car had a 20-second buffer to the car behind at the exit of the pit stops, but he's had a big lose at the entry to the S's. Doesn't look like there's damage, but it's going to take him a moment to reverse out and get moving again, and that is going to bring the Rookie Monsters 362 car of David O'Reilly much closer. In fact, the Rookie Monsters driver on exiting Tetra Rouge will see the Roff Racing yellow Aston just up ahead, and it looks like these two teams will engage in battle once again quite shortly. Nothing like a close visual lock to get the pursuing driver smelling blood in the water, but before we can plan anything, there's been a little bit of an off there by the Roff Racing 375 car, and the Rookie Monsters car is right on his rear bumper as they round Arnage and head up in the run-up to the Porsche curve. At the same time, Rivera is pitting for fuel only. It's just a 35-second stop, but this will drop him to P3, and Matalana will take over P2 from the Corvette. In fact, that was probably him we heard going through. Yes, that is it. That is Matalana passing the Corvette in pit lane. Meanwhile, that battle is still very real between the Rookie Monsters Aston Martin and the Roff Racing Aston Martin as they accelerate out of the Mulsanne corner and set themselves up for the entry into Indianapolis. The Rookie Monsters car here strategizing and eyeing up what he might be able to achieve, but before he can do anything, the Roff Racing car runs on straight ahead at Indy. It looks like potentially a hardware failure, brake pedal failure, or it's just a failure to spot the appropriate braking point, but he's made a good decision there and come to a complete stop and appears to have avoided damage. A little bit of onboard footage here from the Rookie Monsters Aston Martin looking ahead towards the Corvette of GMI, and just to show you how narrow and how tricky it is to manage this drying line through the Porsche curves. And that's the thing specifically with Porsche, they are such big commitment corners. When the line is so narrow, it is hairy. About lap 79, the number 274 Ferrari of One Move Esports comes up to put a lap on the Rookie Monsters 362 car at approximately 5.5 hours into the event, and 362, the Rookie Monsters car, moves over and lifts to facilitate a safe pass. Just now to show you some lap times: Castano with a 4:14.7, Hernando with a 4:11.9, O'Reilly with a 4:10.1, and wait for it, Thibaut Malbrun on a 4:05 dead, and this is all at the same time on the circuit. Now Malbrun has played himself back into the game here, and these three cars are fighting for position nearly 6 hours into the game, separated by about 3 seconds. So it is indeed at about 5 hours 50 minutes of race time, and Malbrun in the Ferrari with just sheer pace is once again attacking the 372 Aston Martin of R Factor 2 setups, and just ahead of him is the Corvette of GMI Racing. So we're going to stick with these guys because something is for sure going to happen. This is deja vu, 6 hours in, and these two have not given up, going at one another, and this time Thibaut Malbrun is through once again on the Aston Martin of R Factor 2 setups. But we've seen this movie before, and the Aston Martin is bound to come back at him. Let's just see what happens. The Ferrari is round, the Aston is round. They're exiting the Premier Ralentissement, heading down to the 12e Ralentissement, if I'm to stay in the French mode. Second chicane on the Hernandez Straight. Strange and aggressive move up to the inside by the R Factor 2 setup car, and in fact forces the Ferrari to take avoiding action, and a tiny bit of perhaps unsighted contact on the exit. Let's see what happened now. and we will see that the Aston Martin of R Factor 2 setups in fact chooses to play nice, pull over and lift to allow the Ferrari back through. I think that's probably worth a little bit of an onboard. It looks like the Aston was just overcommitted there and got off the dry line attempting that move, and then was unsighted on the Ferrari. Ferrari was very, very clever in fact to adapt his line and not have contact in the corner. And we can see now from the telemetry, Matalana can see the Ferrari and plays the gentleman game, lifts off, short shifts and lets the Ferrari back through neatly. It's the next circuit of the track coming through the S's in Sector 1, and Rivera can see in his rear view mirror the relentless and huge pace of the Ferrari, and just slightly overcooks it in Tetra Rouge, and he's off to the left hand side. Major loss of traction, car sliding sideways and contact, unavoidable contact by the Ferrari. We can see just there he's just lost the car. From there on he's a passenger. We may get an onboard from the Ferrari, but no, we're not heading to the Ferrari. We are in the Rookie Monsters Aston. You can see the yellow lights flashing wildly there to indicate that there is something going on ahead. The Aston accelerates out of Tetra Rouge down the straight Hunundière and can see the Corvette definitely severely damaged and limping home there on the left. Watches himself go by. That's an unlap because of course the Corvette lapped him sometime earlier. Now the Ferrari has suffered damage in that contact because that is a 100-second plus pit stop. So that means fuel, tyres and repair on the very next lap, and that is costly for the Malbrun piloted Ferrari of One Move. It appears that he's rejoined in position 3, but he has well and truly lost the benefits of some hard work. But he is not as badly damaged as the GMI Corvette. It is absolutely missing its front left tyre, and you can see here it is being an absolute pig of a thing, and that car has got to be driven all the way back to pit lane on only 3 wheels, and that is not an enviable task. Totally missing front wheel there, significant suspension damage, and hats off to the driver who is finding a way to manhandle this car back. We like drivers who don't give up. So the Corvette is in its pit box and being repaired, and we are already at 130 seconds. That's what the 13 denotes. The Rookie Monsters car comes back now, not just to unlap, but actually pull ahead on track of the Corvette. We look back at the Corvette later on, 640 seconds, 650 seconds. So we are talking a 10-minute plus repair to get that car mobile again. So that's been incredibly costly for them. Rookie Monsters pit next time around. You can see the Corvette is still there in pit lane. They take a fresh set of mediums, leave O'Reilly in the car. Conditions are evolving quickly, so the decision is made to leave the same driver in the car, and Rookie Monsters now departs pit lane in P4. 6.25 hours in, we've highlighted the telemetry here to show you the sheer lap time. Malbrun is on a 3:56. Matalana, who is quick, is on a 4:07. Bovo, who is leading, is on a 4:07. The One Move Ferrari driver is just simply flying. Matalana pits in the Aston Martin from second place. It's a 68-second stop, which leads us to think that he hadn't run out of fuel, but it was time to, in his view, to switch tyres to try to match the pace with Malbrun in the flying Ferrari, and that's Malbrun through now to second place. O'Reilly in the Rookie Monsters car had switched to slicks 5 laps earlier than the 372 car, but he's demonstrating here that at the moment no tyre is perfect and no tyre is bulletproof on this track. You get half a tyre's width off that drying line and you are going to have all sorts of trouble. But he recovers back to the circuit without any damage, which is the main thing. Lap 99 and O'Reilly pits in the Rookie Monsters car, but it's a 40-second stationary stop, so no tyre change, just fuel, and the South African driver Carl Steeg, who was recruited to the team very, very recently in the weeks leading up to the event to replace the much-loved American driver Wayne Newton. Carl is off onto a very thin dry line. The Porsche has a bit of an off, resulting in a bit of contact at the Dunlop chicane with an LMP. 5 laps into Carl Steeg's stint in the Aston Martin for Rookie Monsters, and disaster strikes. Multiple contacts here on the exit of the Porsche curves, or the exit of the middle Porsche curve. Let's go back on board and see what happened. It just looked like he just slightly got off the dry line. We're going to go and have a little look. We're on board now with Carl Steeg, turning left. This is the tricky corner, puts the right hand side of the car inadvertently onto the wet, slides. He's a passenger from there on, tapped by an LMP, and the car actually suffers rear left corner suspension damage. Bigger problems, however, for the Porsche of the AXRT team. At 7 hours and 46 minutes 50 seconds into the race, they have a major impact at the Premier Relatissement. It just seems incredibly slippery in this moment in time. You can see there that the Rookie Monsters car has had a moment on entry as well, although the 297 car did manage to navigate it okay. Xavier Eugeni is in the car. You can see him manipulating from the telemetry there, brake, throttle, but there's a missing number. That 0 on the left is RPM. Xavier has no engine at this point in time, so the engine has either had a total failure due to the impact, which seems strange because the engine's at the back in these, or in the middle, or he hasn't assigned an ignition switch, and regretfully his race is over. Mario Vargas Salinas leaves the pits in the 387 GMI Racing Corvette. After their earlier 10-minute repair, they are over a lap down on the next vehicle and in 7th place, dead last of the remaining field. But they have 17 odd hours to race. Let's see what they can do. Still very wet, and the Porsche curves still very, very deadly. And Carl Steeg, the South African driver from Rookie Monsters, uses all his talent to recover from that moment. And Carl Steeg switches then to wet tyres. The R-Factor 2 setups car, 7 hours and 30 minutes into the race, suffers a disconnect, loses over a lap and returns to the fray in 5th place, and now behind the 362 car of Rookie Monsters. So the running order at 8 hours distance: Berggraf in the 297 car, 113 laps. Decoy in the 274 Ferrari, same lap, but sector 3. Steeg in the 362 Rookie Monsters car, 2 laps down, 111 laps. Same lap, but trailing by 2 sectors, is Miro in the 375 Roth Racing Aston Martin. A lap back to Suarez in the 390 car, he's on lap 110. And we can't show you a Salinas because they have suffered a disconnect in the Corvette. So now we are back to Olizola in the R-Factor 2 setups car. GMI Racing are back in the car and back on track after their unfortunate disconnect to add to their 650-second repair time. And they're feeling the track surface now because they've returned to a track that is very, very wet. And you'll see here as they exit the pit lane and rejoin in 7th place, there is a lot of work to do, but there is a lot of time left, and we can only at this point wish them luck and hope that they can catch up with some of the other people in the field. It's dusk as we approach the 9-hour mark here at Circuit de la Sarthe, so we thought we'd show you some pretty late evening dusk views from the 387 Corvette. You can see the famous Ferris wheel on the left hand side there. You can see the track is very, very wet as the Corvette navigates its way through the Ford chicane complex and onto the pit straight. You can gather the balloon on the left and gather up and appreciate some of the track detail of this beautiful rendering of the Le Mans circuit at a beautiful time of night. Even on a wet track, when you've had a disconnect, it's a pretty sight. Sticking with the GMI Corvette, car number 387, all is not well with that car. It is just not handling well. The driver is really struggling to keep it together, and we suspect that perhaps in that serious crash on Tetra Rouge and the recovery to the pit lane and to the repairs, it's not always possible to repair everything, and that car is handling like a bucket of nails at the moment. It is just all over the shop. And when you've had a 10-minute repair, when you've had a disconnect, your car's handling like a pig, it's getting dark, it's going to be a long night, and you are laps down sometimes you just feel like pulling the pin, and that's what they did. Running order at the 10-hour mark. Sagnes in first, lap 142. Malbrun in the Ferrari in second and flying 140 laps. Demetrius Pappas is now in the 362 Rookie Monsters car, 139 laps. Miro in the yellow Aston Martin, 139 laps and close by. Sola is in the 390 car, the race R Factor car, and Olizola in the 372 R Factor 2 setups car, 1 lap down on him at 137 seconds. Now this is an interesting observation. Demetrius Pappas, the Greek driver, just did a service in pit lane, 34 seconds, so clearly tyres only. He is double stinting the wets. But if we look here at the 372 car, who is going to be very significant in the battle with the Rookie Monsters car later in the race, the driver takes over the car after a full service and somehow manages to slam it into the pit wall. It just looks like one of those times when somebody's taken over the car and perhaps was looking down at the desk or adjusting something else and held an angle on the wheel and perhaps caused some damage. Now we're looking now to the Ferrari, the 488 GTE Ferrari, driven by Malbrun, and he is absolutely flying. He is a clear 2 or 3 seconds quicker than anybody else on the track at the moment, and you can see in the body language of the car, he has grabbed this car and he is throwing it around, showing little respect for the track, less respect for the car, and absolutely pursuing maximum pace every single lap in his pursuit of the lead car ahead. 2 wheels off on the grass there. He's leaving nothing on the table. But there's a balance of risk and return, and at night on a wet track, when you are absolutely on the limit of 100%, there's not much margin, and bang! Malbrun in the Ferrari hits both sides of the track, hits the Armco in the Porsche curves, bounces off, has a connection on the other side, and we look like we have got serious steering damage now to that very, very quick Ferrari. And he's in the pit lane. We'll look at that, look at the meter now. It's ticked over to 100 seconds before departing. So he's had about 25 seconds of body repair on top of the fuel and the tyres. Let's see how he gets on. And at the 11-hour mark, at the end of that outlap, we have the answer, and the answer is not well at all. The Ferrari once again is off in a big way in the Porsche curves. Potentially they just ticked the box that said repair body only, knowing that repairing the chassis might mean a 10-minute delay for them, and we can tell that their mindset is not about just finishing this race. The approach here clearly is a win it or bin it approach, and the car is limping and crabbing very, very badly as it limps back to pit lane here in Sector 3 at the Circuit de la Sarthe. That is one very sorry looking Ferrari with no doubt a very, very big repair bill coming up, and a race that was looking oh so promising, oh spectacular, is looking in tatters. And there's the One Move Esports Ferrari in the pit lane. The driver has killed the lights. The minutes are ticking over, 150 seconds so far, and in one moment they will decide to pull the pin. Brave effort. Also at the 11-hour mark, Demetrius Pappas, the Greek driver, has handed over to Oliver Newman, or Ollie Newman, an employee of the Aston Martin Formula One team. And what they've done, they've gone for dry tyres, they've gone for mediums. They've been, and have a look how wet this is on the exit until he gets to that narrow drying line. The pit lane is so wet because it's not got traffic. So Ollie is on medium tyres, slick tyres, and absolutely tippy-toeing around on his outlap here. But the team looked at the numbers, they looked at the offline wetness, they looked at how drivable the drying line was, and decided that they didn't want to leave it another hour to go for the medium tyres. So this is a tricky outlap for Ollie as he finds his way around, and as we'll see now, the difference between being a hero and surviving and losing the car totally and having a major wreck is a very small margin indeed. But one more lap and you'll see the number ticks over from third to second, and of course that is because of the Ferrari retirement. Now look carefully at these two cars. Newman in the first car, 34 seconds. The R-Factor Setups car up on the jack, so they are having a full service, that's fuel and tyres, versus the Rookie Monsters car which has just gone on to a double stint on the mediums. Strategy starting to kick in, and 2 laps apart. Lap 171, and Wamel pits from the lead in the virtual drivers by TX3 machine, up on the ramp for only 34 seconds, fuel only. Wamel is 3 laps clear, but still double stinting. The Ferrari retirement also pushes the 390 car up into 3rd place. Meanwhile, 2nd place runner Ollie Newman is certainly not doing it easy in the Aston. On those medium tyres on a very thin drying line, he has his work cut out for him at the moment, and just now we see a complete spin, a 180 at Indy. Lovely little spin turn to recover. Let's go on board and see what that looked like from Ollie's perspective. Sorry, Ollie. So left hand side of the car, braking nicely on a dry bit, right hand side on a wet bit, and sets up a yaw rate, and around you go. With 11 hours and 40 minutes to go, we are starting to see the shape start to take of an incredible chase by Francesc Matalana and his team at R Factor 2 setups. They are absolutely flying. Ollie Newman doing well in the Rookie Monsters Aston, but still not quite found his mojo. He's had a moment there at the Deuxième Ralentissement, the second chicane on the Hunundier Straight, but fortunately no damage to the car, and he's off again. Slight moment at the final chicane there at Ford, and the Matalana team is on him. Matalana, the pole sitter, attacking Ollie. Now this pass, which Ollie doesn't fight because it's just, there is no point, this pass just puts him 2 laps down on the Rookie Monsters car with 11.5 hours to go. So there is a chase to be done. Big moment there for the race R Factor car, the 390 car. Big lose at Tetra Rouge, but doesn't connect with anything and moves off again on his way with no harm done. Now we're seeing Ollie Newman in the Rookie Monsters car ending that very same lap 181. But if you look in pit lane carefully there, you will see the R Factor 2 setups car. He has gone into the pits, and he has gone in 2 laps earlier than Ollie Newman will, but now he's playing the game. The R Factor 2 setups car has stopped for a fuel only stop, but Miro, you'll note there, did a fuel and tyre stop. It's now 2 laps later, and Ollie Newman has come back in, and I think we're going to see a driver change, and yes we do, but it's only a 35-second stop. O'Reilly has taken the double stinted mediums, and they are off now to triple stint that medium tyre, and you would have seen the R Factor setups car just passing them as they exited the pit lane. Now this is the 390 car, the race R Factor car, unlapping from the Rookie Monsters car, which the Rookie Monsters team doesn't resist at all. The other car is a full lap down, and in fact next time around pits, and pits for a full service, 72 seconds. So we're going to see what the impact is of that, having just unlapped but gone for fuel and tyres. The Rookie Monsters car passes 3 laps later the 390 car, race R Factor in the Porsche curves, and the Porsche curves are still deadly and claim yet another victim, although Munoz is very fortunate or very skilled and manages to keep the car in one piece and out of the barriers. Just a lap later, lap 191, and Matalana is on Iglesias in the 375 Roth Racing car for position. They're racing for P4, and Matalana in the R Factor 2 setups car has 2 laps to find versus the Rookie Monsters car because of the events earlier in the race. With 11 hours to go, 2 laps to find, he absolutely has to push it to the limit and cannot be too gentlemanly. So a big bold move up the inside, off the drying line into the entry to the Porsche curves, and that was an incredible move from Matalana. Hats off for that overtake. So fascinating scenario, the Rookie Monsters car being clever with tyres, clever with fuel, and Matalana pushing like mad to try to catch them. and he loses the rear end. It's just a half spin at Indy. No further damage to the car, and he manages to recover with very little interruption, although probably a heart in the mouth moment for the driver of the Roth racing car. That was Iglesias, has seen all of his wishes come true after that hard-fought overtake. He's back around now and in front of Matalana. This is the Rookie Monsters car arriving just afterwards. Now crucially, this is 45 or 50 minutes after the Matalana car unlapped to go just 2 laps down, and the Rookie Monsters car is still on his rear bumper, so that's a fantastic feeling and gives hope to the 362 Aston Martin that they can stop the rot, stop these guys pulling them back. Just a couple of laps later, and this is where the strategy kicks in. This is O'Reilly has pitted fuel only, and that makes this a quadruple stint on those medium tyres. They can't compete with Matalana on sheer pace, so they've got to box clever. And what does the R-Factor 2 setups car do behind them? It stops for a full service, 74 seconds in pit lane. It's time we spoke about the leader, Bova. It's lap 199. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and in the dead of night, he has 4 laps in hand. So somebody's brought me a coffee and brought me a French newspaper. So if anybody of you can read any French, apparently this talks about what was going on about 4 hours ago at about 10 p.m. Bit of a summary of the evening's eventuality. So if you read French, feel free to just pause and have a read of that. So the rest of the running order at 14 hours, we've got O'Reilly in the Rookie Monsters car having covered 195 laps in second. Third place on 194 laps is Munoz in the 390 car, the Race R-Factor car. Fourth place on the same lap, 194, Iglesias in the Roth racing car. And again on the very same lap, Lafarga in the R-Factor 2 setups car. 3 of the chasing cars on the same lap, with Rookie Monsters just 1 lap ahead. The Rookie Monsters car is ending lap 209 as Lafarga in the R-Factor 2 setups car is starting lap 208. So the Lafarga car has eaten away only 20 seconds into that 2-lap gap in 2 hours. Lap 212 and the Rookie Monsters car pits for a full service and a new driver, rejoining in second place with Carl Stieg at the wheel on a fresh set of mediums. Four stints being quite enough on 1 set of tyres. Has a slight whoopsie at the Dunlop curve as he gets his eye in. That dry line is still very, very narrow, and it just takes a while to get your head in the zone and get the feel for what's going on. Next time around he has a momentary whoopsie, but it looks like there's something weird going on with the track, because the Race R-Factor car, and this is looking at it from a distance, the Race R-Factor car has a moment as well in the approach to Dunlop, so it just looks like there's just something deadly going on with the track surface there at that point in time. Hard to explain. Now the driver of the Race R-Factor car recovers his nerves and his composure very, very quickly and sees an opportunity here to unlap. And interestingly enough, this is 2 hours since they previously managed to unlap, but of course lost that track position based purely on that strategy and that quadruple stint. So they are now back just under a lap behind the Rookie Monsters car, which has a tiny, tiny harmless spin exiting the final Ford chicane complex. But next time around manages to nail that, and Carl Stieg is now finding his mojo. Yellow lights for the Roth racing car as an LMP finds its way off the circuit in Porsche curves. A few laps later, it's the Roth racing car in trouble on the Porsche curves as that drying line just stays stubbornly narrow, unlike certain other parts of the track. Now Lafarga is coming back now at Hernando, and he can see him in the distance. You can just see there Hernando is just entering the Ford chicane complex. And Lafarga, who is going very quickly indeed, now has him firmly in his sights and ready to attack. Lap 216, and this fight is still on. end of that same lap approaching the Porsche curves, and Hernando still has a couple of 100 metres in hand, but as he takes the first Porsche curve, totally locks up the rear tyres and gets a big pendulous swing of momentum, and the pass is made before really Lafarga has to expend much effort. You can see Hernando there off to the left. We'll have a little look at what happened, and it just looks like he snatched third gear a little bit too quickly, an over rev and engine braking and a lock-up. If you look at those numbers on the left-hand side, the downshift to fourth, downshift to third, look at the revs, 7,300 revs. It's well above the red line, and the engine braking has just been too much. It's caused an under-rotation. He's locked up the rears, lost the rear end, counter-steering like mad, trying to stabilise it all. But the inertia is in play now, and the car is off the circuit. Meanwhile, Lafarga is looking ultra quick, and Rookie Monsters have about a lap, and from the start-finish line to the first chicane in hand. Now Hernando passes Lafarga, who is in the pits but just taking on fuel, and what's going to be interesting is to see what happens, what Hernando does on his next stop in a couple of laps' time. Now Rough Racing is still having some dramas, this time a half slide, a pretty big half slide at the entry to Tetra Rouge, but it's about to get more dramatic. At the end of lap 224, Hernando in the Rough Racing car number 375 is issued a drive-through by the simulation. Now whether it's detected some of these inadvertent offs to be cut tracks or not is a bit of a moot point, but he maintains P4 on exit, but for how long we will soon see. Next time round is a pit stop for a full service. You can see the 74 seconds on the windscreen, and that's where Lafarga is when Hernando exits the pit, so we've got a significant gap now. Munoz in the Race R Factor car is entering pit lane. He is a full lap ahead of this fight and currently in position 3, and goes for a full service fuel and tyres. It does look like Munoz is single stinting softs, because his previous stop 14 laps earlier was fuel and tyres as well. Now we're going to go on board for some very moody, atmospheric pre-dawn pictures here with the leader, Waymill. We haven't been talking enough about Benjamin Waymill because he's 4 laps ahead of anybody else. So let's ride on board, and you can give us all a lovely scenic ride through the Porsche curves. We can still see the carousel and the balloon there in the distance, and we can enjoy some of the atmospherics of the simulation in this pre-dawn period. We're also going to give you a little bit of a look at the current lap times these guys are achieving. Waymill on a 3:56, Stieg on a 4:02, Munoz on a 3:59, Olazela on a 3:58.6, and Miro on an identical lap time to Olazela. Yeah, look, somebody's figured this is a good moment to slide this L'Equipe Le Mans edition again under the door here, so I'll share that with you. If any of you can make head or tail of that, you're better than me. It's the 17-hour mark, and 372, the R Factor 2 setup car, pits for fuel only. You'll see about 35-36 seconds on the windscreen there. Miro in 375 is in the Porsche curves, so the R Factor 2 setups car stays ahead, exiting the pits, and consolidates 4th place. 17 hours race time, and on lap 242, Waymill enters the pit lane, and a bit of an awkward entry because of that LMP there parked up just behind him, and goes up on the jacks for a full service, but as we watch the clock tick over, it ticks over to 100 seconds. So he's figured that with 4 laps in hand, he could manage to do a little bit of body repair. Now, Rookie Monsters have had a bit of drama at the driver change. Demetrius Pappas had a total power failure at his house, so David O'Reilly was hurriedly woken and installed in the car with short notice, and has taken the car over with a fuel fill only, so is triple stinting the mediums that Carl Stieg had previously double stinted. What you just saw while I was explaining that was Pablo Suarez back in the garage. It's his turn to suffer the disconnect. So meanwhile, the action on screen, the R Factor Setups team is here to unlap O'Reilly in the Rookie Monsters car. Remember, Rookie Monsters is exactly one lap ahead, so that move there into the Ford chicane, slightly from O'Reilly to make that a safe move, now means that the R Factor 2 Setups car is on the same lap as the Rookie Monsters car, but they pit. And they pit for a full service, whereas the Rookie Monsters car is triple stinting medium. So you'll see there, Rookie Monsters goes a lap up again and into the distance. And in fact, the Roth Racing Aston passes as well while that service is being carried out. So Rookie Monsters with a lap and 77 seconds in hand, 6.5 hours to race. Rookie Monsters managing an average of about a 4-minute flat on the triple stinted mediums. The Roth Racing car into the 56s, and R Factor 2 Setups into the mid 56s. Beautiful car control here on a small slide exiting Mulsanne corner. Lovely to watch. Roth Racing car enters pit lane. You can see he was just in front of the R Factor 2 Setups car. Let's see what they decide to do with regard to the car servicing, but R Factor 2 Setups passes Roth Racing as Roth Racing enters the pit lane. And what are they going to do? And yes, the car is up on the jacks. That means a tyre change and a 74-second stop. And the Rookie Monsters car has a big lose at Mulsanne, no damage. Let's call that a half spin. 372 is pushing like mad and is now into the 355s. It's now time for Rookie Monsters to pit, and I believe this is a full service. This is a driver change, and you'll see the unlap occur there as the R Factor 2 Setups car passes pit lane while the Rookie Monsters car is still being serviced. So Rookie Monsters takes off in pursuit. They are less than a lap ahead now, but the R Factor 2 Setups car is due to pit in only 25 minutes because we are now starting to see the effect of the fuel saving by the Rookie Monsters car. There is now a pit stop offset of a full half of a stint between the two cars. Now, Rookie Monsters did not repair the car from that contact in the Porsche curves with the LMP, but Ollie Newman, with a few hours sleep and a brand new set of mediums, is on it and is into the 357s. Now that is going to cause some consternation in the R Factor 2 Setups garage, and is also going to cause David O'Reilly, no doubt, to reach his well-worn copy of the Racing Driver Excuses Manual and point out that Newman is on brand new mediums, whereas he was on 3-stint old mediums. Either way, the lap time advantage now in hand with the R Factor 2 Setups car is only 0.6 of a second with 5 hours to go. Miro pits in the Roth Racing car. It is a fuel stop only this time round. R Factor 2 Setups is in the pit lane. What will they do? They've gone up on the jack, so it's a full service, tyres and fuel, 74 seconds stationary in the pit box. And as they leave the pit lane, who do we see here? This is Ollie Newman in the fast-moving Rookie Monsters car, passes him on pit lane exit after all that hard work. Here is the view from the R Factor 2 Setups car. That is Newman ahead of him again on track, so that means he is now a lap plus a bit down once again. 4 hours and 10 minutes to go. We're visiting again with the leader, Maxime Berggraf, at the wheel, showing the absolute huge pace that's allowed him to dominate this event. Look at that lap time, 3 minutes 54.3. This will be his fastest lap of the race because incredible drama is about to unfold. Grandstand view here, Berggraf in the zone, no doubt, travelling at huge pace, has simply forgotten to enter pit lane for fuel until it's too late. Locks up the brakes, skids to a halt, reverses back along the pit wall, and after 3 or 4 seconds is automatically disqualified by the marshals, and that is the leader out of the race. The leader is immediately disqualified. Unbelievable scenes, and the digital number on the Rookie Monsters car immediately flicks over to number 1, and the race now between them, Roth Racing in the yellow Aston Martin and the R Factor 2 Setups car, is now for the win, with Franz Soler in the race R Factor 390 car 4 laps back on lap 276. There are 4 hours left to race. Matalana in the R Factor 2 setups car shows just how hard they're having to push to execute this chase, and that lap will be a 4:04. From Miro in the Roth Racing car, a very, very hot in lap as he heads in to pit lane for a service. He is also right on the limit. You can see there how much apex he's taking. The body language of that car shows he is pushing like mad. He enters the pit box from, in fact, position 2, because the race is on between the Roth car and the R Factor 2 setups car for second place. But you will see the R Factor 2 setups car pass Roth Racing in pit lane. And in fact, the Roth Racing pit stop is a long one. It's 2 minutes and 42 seconds stationary in the pit box, and no doubt that is due to some repairs from that earlier contact with the barrier. This is where they are on track at exactly the same moment in time. 20 hours, 17 minutes and 19 seconds of racing. You can see the gap between P2 and P3. This is fourth place. Now Oliver Newman enters pit lane. He's done 2 stints already, 2 hours on these medium tyres. What will he do? The car stays on the deck. He's keeping these mediums. This will be a triple stint from the Aston Martin Formula One team employee. We can see R Factor 2 setups unlap themselves as Newman is in pit lane, but it is only a 35-second stop for Newman. 20 hours and 38 minutes into the race, and we see Lafarga in the R Factor 2 setups car enter pit lane. He's just in front of the race R Factor car, which is 4 laps down. He's double stinting tyres, but tyre strategy won't do it from here. They've got no choice but to absolutely go as fast as they can. They've got 3.5 hours of racing to go, and this is Matalana, the pole sitter, through the Ford chicanes with some moody slow-mos there to show you exactly how hard he is pushing this car, and he is right on the limit, giving it everything he's got to try to find some way of pressuring Ollie Newman in the Rookie Monsters Aston Martin a full lap ahead. Matalana is a 3 minutes 56.3 on this very lap, but Ollie Newman in the Rookie Monsters Aston Martin is doing a 58.7 on triple stinted mediums. Now, pushing it to limit has actually come at a price. This is now the R Factor 2 setups car serving a drive-through, so they've exceeded the amount of track cuts allowed by the simulation. Now, same moment in time, Ollie Newman, there he is. He was a lap up and sector 1 as Newman now pits. So this is a full service and a driver change to Carl Stig, the South African driver, but LMP2 car unfortunately treats the GTE class leader a little bit like background scenery. Maybe he's an iRacing player. And we take a 1.3 G hit on our front guard, causing body damage. Clearly that driver's wife does the shopping. 12 minutes later, and the R Factor 2 setups car pits for fuel only. They have unlapped themselves as Stieg is in the Porsche curves, but what's possibly becoming apparent now to the R Factor 2 setups team is that the Rookie Monsters' second party trick, fuel strategy, has netted in them now being on exactly the same fuel strategy. The Rookie Monsters car has literally dropped a stop. And there is the second last stop from the Rookie Monsters car. Obviously fuel only. Carl will at least double stint these tyres, and 1 lap later the R Factor 2 setups car is in, and it went up on the jacks. That was a full service. That was a 74-second fuel and tyre service, handing back effectively a hard-won 35 seconds to the car they're chasing. And you can see Stieg in the Rookie Monsters Aston ending that very lap that the R Factor 2 setups car has just commenced. So Suarez here in the Race R Factor Aston Martin has caught Hernando in the Roth Racing Aston Martin and has the pace and has an opportunity to unlap. Hernando does the gentlemanly thing, sees him there, lifts, allows him to take back a lap. It's not going to affect his race results, so we may as well play nice. 23 hours and 4 minutes on the clock, and just inside the fuel window now for a final stop. Hernando in the Roth Racing car is the first of the top 3 to exit the pit lane for the final time. 55 minutes remaining. Where are they on track? Carl Stieg just finishes lap 327. At the same moment in time, Alex Olizola in the R Factor 2 setups car is just exiting the second ralentissement on the same lap. A full lap down is Albert Hernando in the Roth Racing car. He's on lap 326, having just done that pit stop. Pablo Suarez is on lap 320. 35 minutes left on the race clock, and the Rookie Monsters pilot Carl Stieg stops for the final time. Obviously no tyre change, so yet it's another triple. Team have done the numbers on the fuel, telling him exactly how much fuel to take. It's a 27-second stop. 2 minutes later, because that's the gap, on the same lap, R Factor 2 setup stops and takes 28 seconds worth of fuel. It is now a straight fight to the line, no more stop. Stieg has a comfortable gap, but he's got to keep it together for 35 minutes, no mistakes. He's on triple stinted mediums. The car is carrying slight damage from on the rear quarter from that contact with the LMP. 204 laps ago, and all Stieg has got to do is circulate in 401s. Matalana, on the other hand, has no choice but to continue to give it absolutely everything, and give it absolutely everything he does. It's a spectacular final stint on low fuel from Matalana in the R Factor 2 setups car. But the Rookie Monsters Aston is just too far up the road. They played their own strategic game based on what they had. They had some narrow escapes, they had some small scrapes. They missed out on any serious bad luck, and they have managed to deliver the biggest win available in the Virtual Endurance Championship Division 3 of the year. Second place after a hard charging and great drive is the R Factor 2 setups car. They had some bad luck. They lost a lap or 2 laps based on a disconnect, which was no fault of their own whatsoever, and that set us up for a spectacular chase for the win. In third place is the Roth Racing 374 car, who put up a brilliant drive, similar pace probably to the R Factor 2 setups car, but just had a little bit of bad luck and a little bit of damage, which separated them from the top 2. And Pablo Suarez brings it home in the 390 car, 6 laps down from the winner. But hats off to the team from Race R Factor for persisting and for executing 24 hours of racing here at Le Mans. Congratulations. So there's the full set of results, which I'll just leave up on the screen for a few seconds. Pause it if you want to study that in greater detail. And here the final edition, hot off the press, of L'Equipe newspaper Le Mans special edition. So the French readers can have a little bit of a read about what the local journalist's take was on the race. Of course, is the team's own internal poster artwork created to celebrate this fabulous victory, created in fact by Oliver Newman himself. So well done, Oliver. Well done to the team. And my final word is to say thank you very, very much. If you've come this far on the journey with us, thank you very, very much for paying the compliment. I hope you've enjoyed it. It was actually really, really good fun to make this, as well as being quite a big job. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you here to visit. And I do want to thank our broadcast sponsor, which is the Sim Racers Performance Guide. If you want to learn how the pros set up their car and how the top teams strategize events like this one, everything the Rookie Monsters winning team did in the Aston Martin came straight out of this guide. So if you want to learn the secrets of the pros, get yourself a copy. If the interest is there, we may look at doing a second video, which is a bit more of a engineering nuts and bolts, a kind of a behind the scenes look at the race, if you will. We specifically avoided that from this one because it was going to be a very long video anyway, and by getting into the whole engineering and strategy side at any sort of decent level, it would just add a lot of time to the video. So we might look at doing a behind the scenes engineering chat if the interest is there. But thank you very, very much for your time, and good night.